The Pentagon once called climate change a threat multiplier, but in a recent Pentagon revised report on the risk climate change poses to defense, the words climate change have mostly been deleted. The Washington Post got a hold of an unpublished draft of the report, and joining us now is retired Navy Captain Joe Bouchard to talk about what this could mean for us here in Hampton Roads. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Now, the original report, it was during the Obama era, and there were several references to climate change and a sense of urgency that something needed to be done. How would you describe the threat climate change poses to the Navy base?
It is a serious threat, especially sea level rise and the impact that has on storm surge during any kind of a storm or heavy precipitation events. It is already a problem for the base. It's only going to get worse. It's also a problem for the roads around the base. Hampton Boulevard is the best example.
And I understand there was one stat I had: by 2040, Hampton Boulevard will be underwater and impassable for 2 to 3 hours a day, just simply from the normal tide action. So that's pretty, that's devastating.
Tidal flooding is already a problem on Hampton Boulevard and interferes with the ability of sailors to get to work.
Right.
Interferes with delivery of supplies and parts for the ships and aircraft. So it is having a negative impact on the base, and as it gets worse, it will affect the combat readiness of the forces there.
So these words that have been deleted, the way they revised this draft, is this just playing with words? Is it really a matter of what you actually do to address climate change? How concerned should we be?
The words matter. DOD is being sensitive to the politics in Congress, which is dominated by science deniers, and DOD is actually pursuing a lot of initiatives related to climate change, and the change of the wording in this report does not change that. Okay, so the work will continue. Yes.
All right. Well, we thank you for coming on. We appreciate it. We'll watch to see what happens with this.
Thank you.